First, we'll start with dua. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man walah. Sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama tasliman kathiran mazida amma ba'd. Okay, welcome everyone to our third session of office hours. My name is Fahad Yassin. I think most of you have figured out my name by now, in case anyone we have new. My name is Fahad Yassin. I've been studying Arabic for 2 years, so I won't really do much of an introduction today. I think that we can just go to jump straight into the material. If you guys look at the the office hours WhatsApp group, I just now sent my Google document in there, so it should be accessible for everyone. I changed it so that as long as you have the link, you can access it. So as you know, I do everything on Google Documents. I teach via that. So you're welcome to open it and follow along as we go through this. So yeah, it's in the chat. Yeah, it's in the WhatsApp group chat that I just sent. So you're welcome to follow along. And yeah, so let's go. Can you guys tell me what lessons you have covered so far, like this week and this past week?
Lesson 4.
For lesson 4.
Okay, sounds good. So just lesson 4. Okay, so that means you're past lesson 3. All right, can you guys all see my Google Doc?
Yep.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so as I said, I work on this a lot, and I shared it with you now. So when if you open the Google Doc, just go to the way bottom, because now we're on the way bottom. Right. So today we're going to do the same general format. I'm going to be, like I shared with you on the WhatsApp group chat, those links that lead to the video lessons. We're going to go through lesson 3, to the main crux of the material. After that, or in between, in the midst of that as well, I ask for any questions anyone has. We go through the questions, and then if anyone has done the quizzes, we can go over some of the difficult questions on the quizzes. If not, it's no big deal. At the end of the day, I'm just here to help you. This is quite informal. It's not really lecture. It's just question and answer type, along with some lecture type stuff. After that, we'll do lesson 4. Because lesson 4 is newer to you, I want to make sure I emphasize that more. So I'll probably go a little bit more quickly on lesson 3, and then we'll just make sure we focus more on level 4, because that's newer material for you. And as you probably have noticed, Fawaki, like most other places, they build on the previous material. So lesson 4 is just kind of like a build up, and it's just more complex material as compared to level 3, lesson 3. Alrighty, so before I start, does anyone have any questions? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Sounds good. Okay, and at any point, if you have questions, you can either raise your hand in this Zoom thing, or just just interrupt me. I don't mind. You can just say what your question. That's fine. So let's get started then. Lesson 3. Actually, for lesson 3, if you instead of looking at the bottom, if you guys look, I took, yeah, okay, right here. So you have to scroll up a little bit, but it's lesson 3 material. I already have notes because last week we went over lesson 3 material, lesson 2 and lesson 3 that week. So this week we're doing lesson 3 and lesson 4. So we're gonna just go over this stuff right here. I'm gonna stop sharing real quick. I need to access the YouTube video, so just bear with me 1 second. Okay, so back to the Google document. So I use the video lessons that Fawaki does as my template to know what exactly that you guys cover. I assume that what you cover is pretty similar to the video lessons that they share on their websites. So let's go ahead and quickly review lesson 3, and I'm gonna be rather quick with this because this was last week's material. But if you are confused at any point, if I'm going too fast, let me know so I can stop and slow down. Okay. So the first thing first is every ism. Remember, we're talking about isms right now. Okay. Every ism in the Arabic language, without exception, is either masculine or feminine. Side note, some isms are both masculine and feminine. Okay, it gets a little complicated because there is that such a thing. Some of them Like the word hal, for example, like in the say kayfa haluk, it translates to how are you, but it's not perfect. The actual meaning of that is how is your condition or state. So hal actually can be both masculine and feminine. But they're not very much. The point, the biggest point that I need you to understand is that every word in Arabic, ism specifically, this does not apply to a fi'l, it does not apply to a harf, it applies to ism. And ism is either masculine or feminine. Every single word in Arabic is like that. So therefore, every ism, so I'm back on the, did I share this? Sometimes it doesn't share completely. Okay, now it should be shared. Every ism in Arabic has a gender. Okay, this is different from English. In English, we can either have he, she, or it. It is a gender neutral pronoun. It does not exist in Arabic. It's just not a thing. There's no such thing as it in Arabic. Everything, whether it's animate, inanimate, human, non-human, whatever it is, tangible or intangible, it's going to have a gender. So for example, the word rahmah, which like, rahmatullah, mercy of Allah, the word rahmah has a gender. It's feminine for reasons we'll cover soon. The word tawila, which is a table is an inanimate object. In English, we would refer to table as it, like that table, it, etc., or a pen, or anything like that, right? In Arabic, no. In Arabic, tawila is feminine. Even though in English we don't think about it like that, but in Arabic, every single ism has a gender, masculine or feminine, and sometimes both, but usually just one or the other. So right, that's the biggest thing to remember. There's no it in Arabic. Now masculine, and these two words here that I'm gonna go ahead and bold right now, I would recommend you memorize them because you'll I mean, especially if you continue on with whether it's Fawaki or elsewhere, you will need to know these words, like the actual Arabic words, because these are the terminology that students of higher knowledge learn and use. So mudhakkar means masculine, okay? In fact, at some point you'll get to a point where they don't even use the English, right? They just use the Arabic. So feminine is mu'annath, right? So every ism is either mudhakkar or masculine. So this one, or every word is either masculine or every word otherwise is feminine. So it's either masculine or feminine, without exception. Okay. Remember, again, we're talking about isms, not fi'l or verb, and not harf. Okay, these rules don't apply to those. They only apply to the ism. It's either masculine or feminine. Okay, and there's no it. There's no concept of gender neutrality in the Arabic language, strictly language speaking. Okay, now that being said, the default for an ism is masculine. Okay, the default for an ism is masculine. In other words, if there's no reason for it to be feminine, then it's going to be masculine. Okay, so why do we even need to have a default? Well, here's why. So the next point, there are signs, what's called alamat. I'm going to some other entering the room, okay. There are signs or what's called alamat. And yes, I do recommend you know this word because that's an important word that comes up very frequently in grammar texts. Um, alamat or signs, okay, that indicate that something is feminine, okay. So I don't know if this concept exists in English. I'm not sure. I don't really never studied English grammar formally, just kind of informally here and there, but it definitely exists in Arabic. Um, we're going to go over some of them. There's actually many, like lots of signs, some more common than others, some quite rare, but there are lots and lots of signs that indicate to you that this word is feminine. There are also some signs for masculine, but because ism that's masculine is by default masculine, it doesn't necessarily need to have a lot of signs. I hope that makes sense. So something that's by default masculine doesn't need to have signs to show that it's going to be default. Sorry, give me one second. Whoever's in the background, can you just mute yourself, please? Thank you. Um, so um, by default, an ism is masculine. Whatever is default usually does not need to have a sign to indicate that it is masculine because it's already masculine by default. That being said, there are certain things that indicate that it is masculine, which we'll go over probably some other lesson. The big thing about lesson 3 is looking at the signs or alamat for what is feminine. Okay, and again, this word, right? So there's 3 general signs that lesson 3 covers, okay? And these are really important to know because you see this in the Quran constantly, really. So the first one is this. This is the letter, sorry, let me do this again. This is the letter, okay? Hope you guys can all see what I'm highlighting. This is the letter itself. It's called Atta al-Marbuta. Some of you might have heard it. This is the actual spelling of the word. At-ta'ul marbuta. Okay. Technically, I should put a dhamma here. It's not that important, but in this case, why not? At-ta'ul marbuta. So why did they call it this, by the way? So this in reality, this letter here is a ta. It's an actual ta, which is like this letter. Okay. It is a ta. But what's the difference between this and this? This letter is called marbut. Okay. So marbut, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing to show you guys something. If you look at my screen, you know how you have normally a ta that's like this, right? That's like a boat. Like if you look at, just alif ba ta, that third letter, it's a boat, right? A boat with two dots on top. That's a ta, right? That's called ta maftuha, which is also in the Google documents, which I'll explain soon. Ta maftuha is a ta which looks open because it is. It's a ta that's like this. It's like a boat, but it's open. That's the whole point of it, right? Maftuha means open. It comes from fataha, which means to open. Maftuha means that which is opened. So ta maftuha is open. However, ta marbuta, if you imagine I'm taking this ta like this, that's in a boat shape, and I'm closing it in like this. And then of course the two dots go on the top, dot dot here, okay? Like this. That's why it's ta marbuta. Because marbut, it comes from rabata. Rabata means to tie something together. So marbut is that which is tied up together. So you're taking the ta and you're bringing it together like this. That's why it's called ta marbuta. It's actually being linked together. The ta maftuha is being linked together to form ta marbuta. Marbut means tied up together. So I'm not sure if I don't think that's included in the video, but I just think it's kind of like fun trivia to know. That's why it's called the ta marbuta, because it's actually coming together like that. So back to the Google document. That's why this is called ta marbuta. Because it's actually, as I explained here, marbut means that which is tied up together. So that's why they call this, because you're just putting it together. In any case, you don't need to necessarily know that, but just know what this letter is. This is ta marbuta. Now, of course, ta maftuha down here, as I explained before, ta maftuha is this one. It's the open ta, like this, like this one, okay? Because it's open. Maftuha means it's open, okay, with the two dots on top, like I explained to you. So that's kind of like a side tangent. The biggest thing to know is this ta marbuta is a sign of femininity. I always have a hard time saying that word. It's like a tongue twister. Not that you need to know what I'm about to put. Actually, you probably do need to know eventually. How they say the femininity in Arabic is ta'nith. Okay, it's the masdar, which you will learn eventually. If you want to learn this now, you'll eventually need to know this word. These are all useful terminologies in the world of grammar to know. So, sign of femininity or ta'nith. Okay, that marbuta. Meaning, when you see the marbuta, that ism usually, it's not perfect, it's never perfect, but usually it's feminine. Okay. So the whole point is, and you can try this, open the Quran and you'll find countless examples like this. Find a word, if you see ta marbuta, it usually is feminine, okay? So it's a sign of femininity, meaning when you see it, it's likely going to be feminine, okay? So like I said right here, if you see ta marbuta, it's usually feminine. So for example, a really easy example, the word Muslim versus Muslima. I use this because everyone knows what Muslim means, okay? Technically, the word means the one who submits, but yani, it refers to someone who's practicer of Islam, right? So Muslim, this is, well, actually, you know what? I want anyone can, unmute themselves and raise their hand, or not raise your hand, just unmute yourself and tell me which one is masculine and which one is feminine from among this list or this thing right here.
Muslimatun is mu'annas and Muslim is mudhakkar.
Excellent. Can you tell me why that Muslimatun is mu'annath?
Because it has ta marbuta.
Excellent. Very good. Good. And conversely, vice versa, Muslim is masculine because it does not have ta marbuta. Good. So that being said, ta marbuta is, like I said before, it's usually a sign of femininity, but not always. So for example, the word Khalifa. The word Khalifa specifically means a male successor. Like the Khulafa al-Rashidun, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali radiallahu anhum ajma'een. They are all like, Khulafa is the Jam'a, like the plural. The singular word is Khalifa. So Khalifa has a ta marbuta at the end, right? But it's not feminine. It's actually referring to a male successor. Similarly, the word Hamza, it's a common name, right? Hamza, look at the end, it has a ta marbuta, right? But it's not feminine. It's actually masculine because it refers to the name Hamza. How would you know when you see these exceptions? The only way to know is when you see the exception, you ask a teacher and they tell you it. So it's like it's what they call sama'a in Arabic. In other words, you just know the exceptions by learning them. There's not really, I mean, there are patterns, but there's not really any rhyme or reason or rule for it. It's just you just learn the exception. There are a few more exceptions that I don't want to go over right now because they're in the video lesson that you can look at later if you want. Like for example, da'iyah, it refers to a male caller to Islam. But I want to make sure that I get through all the material, so I'm just kind of giving some examples right now, okay? A side note, which I do think is really important to know, Hamza is the name, like the name Hamza, this one right here. If you say Hamza with this ha, that's not that special ha, it's the ha, like when you're sighing, that's the letter, okay? This letter here, that's Hamza. Hamza is the name, Hamza is the letter, okay? Just a side note, this actually happens a lot. Like for example, the word ibadah is worship. If you say ibadah instead of an ain, if you say ibadah, it means annihilating, like massacring people, like genocide type of meaning, okay? So it's kind of like a side tangent, but like if you change one letter, often, not often, sometimes it can have a drastically different meaning. So, okay. At any point, guys, just again, it's like a crash course today. I'm just kind of going through it relatively fast, but if you need to stop me, okay? Another sign of femininity is alif al-maqsura. So this is alif al-maqsura. Now, why do they call it alif al-maqsura? First of all, it is an alif, okay? I know it looks like a ya, this letter here, it looks like a ya, but it's not a ya. It does not have two dots at the bottom, which if it did, it would be a ya. It's not a ya, it is an alif maqsura. It is an alif, okay? An alif is of different types. One of the types is this. So as I said, this is alif. Maqsura, so why do they call it maqsura? Maqsura, I mean, it comes from qasra, which means to restrict something. So basically, maqsura means that which is constricted or restricted. In other words, if you think about it, alif, it's been scrunched up together to form this ya-shaped looking thing, okay? Even though it's not a ya. That's why it's called alif al-maqsura. But regardless, I mean, in the first word of that structure is alif, meaning it's still an alif, okay? So keep that in mind. Note that alif al-maqsura only, and I've never seen an exception to this, it only comes at the end of a word, only, okay? So I guess I didn't give any, oh, actually no, the example's down there. Okay, but the point is, when you see it, usually it indicates a feminine word, okay? So again, these are just things that you see and you'll be like, oh, okay, it's a feminine word, right? So the word, for example, akbar, like when I say Allahu Akbar, it means Allah is the greatest. Akbar actually can mean greater as well. It just depends on how you use it. But in any case, the feminine word of the above is kubra. Now you will learn later how to convert from masculine to feminine in this way. That's like for another lesson. Just know that kubra is the feminine version. Now why is it feminine? Because it is alif maqsura at the end. Note that there are not two dots at the end, therefore it's not a ya. Okay, that's the way to know the difference between an alif maqsura and a ya. Now this kubra is feminine. Why? Because of the alif maqsura. Similarly, the word ghadban, which means angry, the feminine version is ghadba. Again, you'll learn later how to convert between masculine and feminine like this. That's for another time. I don't want to confuse you right now. Just make sure to get the point, which is that the gist of it is that alif maqsura at the end, again, there's no dots at the bottom, so it's not a ya. The alif maqsura right here tells you that it is feminine. Okay? Don't worry about this example. This is going to confuse you. I probably shouldn't put that in there. Another sign of femininity is this is the last one that the video lesson covers. It's called alif al-mamduda. Okay. Now, alif al-mamduda is specific. So first of all, alif. So it's saying al-alif right here, which we know. Therefore, we know it is an alif. Mamduda. Mamduda comes from madda yamuddu maddun. It means to extend. So if you guys have ever, if any of you have ever studied tajweed, you've heard the term med, right? Med, yes, it means that which is elongated, but literally in the language, med means that which is extended, okay? Or med just means extension rather. So mamduda is that which is extended. So basically, if you think about it, this is what we're used to when we see this alif. This alif here is called alif mamduda. Why? Because it's extended, right? It's vertical, it's extended. That's why they call it alif mamduda. But alif mamduda also includes this hamza at the end, okay? This hamza is usually there. I can't say always, but it's usually there. So alif mamduda, it specifically, the mamduda part refers to this alif here because it's extended up and down, right? It's vertical. It's not constricted in any way. But also, it includes this hamza afterward, because that's why I put these two together. And it is found at the end of the word. I've never seen an exception to this, so I'm pretty sure this is usually the case. almost always the case. It's found just like alif maksura is found at the end of the word. This is also alif al mamduda is also found at the end of the word. So for example, the word ahmar is red. The feminine version, again, you'll learn how to convert from masculine to feminine later. But the feminine word version is hamra. How do I know that is feminine? Because of this. The alif, don't worry about the dhamma. Just the alif and the hamza, that's alif al mamduda. It indicates that it's feminine. Okay? So, okay. Those are the three signs. For now, there's more, but the three signs for now are ta marbuta, alif maksura, alif mamduda that indicate feminine. Now we're going to look at certain words that are feminine, but they don't have the signs above. So you remember how we looked at like words like Hamza and Da'iya and Khalifa? Those are masculine, even though they have the sign of feminine, which is the marbuta. This is the opposite. Now we're going to talk about words that are feminine, even though they don't have the sign of the marbuta or the alif maksura or the alif mamduda. Okay. Usually these words, there's a reason for why they are. Okay. So for example, the word it means mother. Okay. I'll give you another example that I just noticed today in the video. Arus. Arus means bride. Okay. So first of all, mother. Everyone understands mother is a feminine thing, right? There's no way to make a masculine mother. Okay. At least in the lugha I'm speaking. I mean in the language. That's what when I say lugha, I mean language. Therefore, has to be feminine just by meaning, right? Even though it does not take a ta marbuta. By the way, if you put a ta marbuta, does anyone know what this word is that I'm typing? If I can get this. What this word is?
Slave?
No, that's close. Not quite. Umma means
Means the
community, I guess.
Yeah.
Nation, right? Like hard to really translate. Yeah. So notice, I did put a ta marbuta at the end, which by the way, this word is feminine because of the ta marbuta, right? But it doesn't mean mother anymore. It means a different word, right? That's, I mean, one of the reasons why there's not a ta marbuta on it. The point is feminine, not because of any sign, because there's none of those signs there. It's just feminine by meaning. Is mother. It has to be feminine. Okay. Another word example is arus. Arus specifically refers to a bride, which is the female spouse, right? Again, same idea there. Now the word ain is I. This one is an exception that you will probably need to know at some point because it's just commonly in the Quran and it's just part of the language. The word ain is I. Now this one's not as obvious because there's no concept of I being feminine in English. Body parts in Arabic that are dual. Body parts that are dual are usually feminine. So for example, ain is feminine. Even if we're only talking about one eye, it's still feminine, okay? Ear, udhun, is also feminine. Why? Because we have two ears. We have two eyes, we have two ears, we have two legs. Rijl, the word for leg, is also feminine because it's dual, a dual body part, okay? Qadam means foot. It's also feminine because it's in dual body parts. So I'm going to go ahead and put down here. Generally speaking, body parts in duals are feminine. If you want more examples of this is also in the video lesson. I'm just going to give you an example. So the word ain. Ain is definitely feminine. Why? Because we have two eyes. Even if we're only talking about one of them, it's going to be feminine because the eye itself is technically in dual. Okay? Okay. Also, names of most countries and cities are feminine. This is just kind of like a general rule. It's not perfectly like this, but most countries and cities, like Amman, Misr, Amman is Amman in Jordan, where I studied. Misr is Egypt, Al-Quds is Jerusalem. They're all feminine, okay? Lastly, words associated with nature are commonly feminine. Now, this is really important. So all these are exceptions. How do you know when you see an exception? There are patterns that I'm explaining to you, but there's no rule or rhyme or reason for these. The only way to really know is you have a competent teacher, a knowledgeable teacher who knows these, and they tell you that, oh, this word is an exception, you need to know. Otherwise, there are patterns such as, like, for example, body parts in duals. That's a pattern, okay? Names of most countries and cities, that's a pattern. And the following thing I'm about to say is also a pattern. How else would you know? It's called samari in Arabic. In other words, you just know that because the teacher taught you. It's like in English, the word psychology. How do you know the word psychology in English has a P, has a silent P? There's no rhyme or reason as far as I know. It's just there because you just have to know it. That's how this works as well. So one of the patterns is that words often that are associated with nature are usually feminine. It's also not perfect. It's not always like this, but generally speaking, they are. And in the Quran, it comes like this too. So the word arab. There is no ta marbuta, no alif maksura, no alif mamduda, nothing to indicate that it's feminine. However, it's feminine. Nar is feminine, or fire, it's also feminine. Shams, meaning sun, it's feminine. Rih, it means wind, it's also feminine. Dar, okay, so I don't know why I put dar here. Dar is actually not a word associated with nature, but it's still feminine. Now, none of these have the signs of being feminine, but they are still feminine. Okay. How do you know? You just got to memorize them. It's like what they say, like why do we need to know? Because the Arabs said so for like 2000 plus years, right? Even before Islam, because these rules were implemented even before Islam, right? Because the language became also before Islam. Okay. So that was a quick crash course in the first part of lesson 3. Does anyone have any questions? Now's the best time to ask questions.
This is not exactly related, but ism includes adjectives.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Because most of these are like, I mean, a lot of these are like adjectives, right? So ism includes. I mean, the definition for ism is what?
Ah, good question. So I'm gonna go back. Actually, I have notes on this. Let me go back here. Let me show you here real quick. Eventually I'll find it. So if you look in the Google Doc, it's way, nope, not that part. It's way on the top of the Google document. Okay, here we go. So it's actually, yeah, it's on the bottom of the first page for those who are following along. Continuing on to the second page. There's 3 types of speech: ism, fi'l, and harf. So this is where I define what an ism is. I'm glad that you brought this up because this is a common thing that people tend to do, and it's very natural. People try to figure out Arabic grammar from English, like from the English perspective, which is natural. Even I did it, but like if you really want to learn Arabic like properly, you want to learn it from the way that the Arabs think about it. An ism, the definition of an ism is 2 things. Number 1, it has independent meaning in and of itself. Number 2, it does not have a tense. What do I mean by tense? I mean time association. It does not have any association with time. In other words, it's not a verb, okay? So for example, the word Jamal, the word Muhammad, the word Jamil, which by the way is an adjective, okay? So I included an adjective here. Why are these isms? Number 1, these words have independent meaning in and of themselves. Now, by that, I do not mean that they're complete sentences. If I just said the word camel, that's not a complete sentence because that's just not complete. But the word has meaning in and of itself, right? I mean, the word camel by itself, the word Jamal, it has meaning in and of itself, by itself. That's what it means to have independent meaning. Secondly, these words do not have any tense. There's no, if I said the word Jamal or Muhammad or Jamil, you don't know whether I'm talking about past, present, future, command, or anything, right? You don't know whether I'm talking about any of the tenses, any time at all. Therefore, it's an ism. So to answer your question, first of all, that's the how to define an ism. Therefore, any word that fits those 2 is going to be an ism, including all adjectives. Okay, so yes, all adjectives, nouns, not all prepositions, pronouns. Okay, let's leave it at that. Okay.
Okay.
All adjectives, nouns, and isms. All adjectives, nouns, and pronouns are isms. Why? Because all adjectives, nouns, and pronouns have independent meaning in and of themselves, and they do not have a tense. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Jazakallah.
Perfect. Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions? I'm gonna go back to the bottom of the page. Okay, I'll take it that no one has questions. If you do at any point, you can send a message on the chat or just interrupt me. That's no problem at all. Okay, so I'm going to quickly stop sharing real quick. I'm going to take a look at, all right, so we just covered, yeah, literally everything in this one. We're just fine there. Okay, cool. And I expected this as well. I think you guys seem like you understand this material just fine. Okay, so the next part of lesson 3 is past tense conjugations. Now, instead of doing this, I think it's best if we, because level 4 give me some feedback, guys. On level 4, have you done like whatever you did in lesson 3 in terms of past tense conjugations and added to it, basically?
Yes.
Yes, we did it.
Good. Okay, sounds good. So therefore you've added. So therefore, instead of going through lesson 3 material, let's just start with lesson 4 and we'll build off on there because it's basically a continuation of lesson 3, which does more conjugations. So therefore, one second. Let me go ahead and find out. Go ahead and do it here. We covered the grammar, we covered the sarf. We don't need to do text analysis right now. Let's do lesson 4. All right, so we're going to move to lesson 4, but before we do, does anyone have any questions on lesson 3 material? Okay, well, interrupt me at any point if you need to. So I'm going to pull up level 4 material. By the way, guys, for anyone who's wondering, I'm also just using the video lesson, so you're welcome to follow along like that too, but I also just use my Google Docs a lot too. Okay, that's just review. Right, so we're going to cover singular, dual. Well, you guys already kind of know singular, but we'll introduce it formally. And plural. Okay, so now back to the Google document. Okay, so now we have plenty, good, alhamdulillah, we have plenty of time for lesson 4. So where did it go? There we go. Okay. All right, as you can see now, you should be able to see my Google document. Let me close this out of the way. You should be able to see my Google document. So let's go ahead and start lesson 4 material. Now lesson 4, it covers conjugations, but we're going to get to that later. What we're going to get to first is the concept of singular, dual, and plural, okay? So singular versus dual versus plural. So first of all, let's introduce the terms, okay? Singular in Arabic is called al-mufrad, okay? Mufrad, which comes from afrada yufridu ifrad, it just means like to be unitary or to be isolated, I guess. So basically, it's how they say singular, okay? Then you have dual. Dual is this. Right. And then next is this. Okay. Now, this is important because this is a bit different from English. In English, we don't have a concept of dual. It's just not there. We do have the concept of singular and plural because singular is just like something that's one, just one, right? Plural is, in English, 2 or more. In Arabic, though, there's one more distinction, which is the fact that there's dual. So singular in Arabic is, just like it is in English, just one of something, okay? Dual is 2, like the term implies, and you should definitely have at some point memorize these terminology. Al-muthanna is for dual, al-mufrad is for singular, al-jama' is for plural. Jama' is super important. Okay, so dual just means 2 of something, okay? No more, no less. It's not 1, it's not 3, it's just 2. This does not exist in English. I don't know why, but it just doesn't, but it does in Arabic. It might have existed in archaic English, but definitely not in contemporary modern English. So plural is 3 or more, okay? All right, so that's the first thing that we need to know. This distinction, like these categories, and you also need to, at some point, I'm not sure if you need to right now, but at some point, I would definitely recommend memorizing these terms. Basically, these are just, terminology that's very useful to know, especially if you continue on with the Fawaki or, onward in other places. Everyone will be using these terms. These are, common terminology to use. All right, so let's see here. Yep, okay, so that's that. Okay, so the first thing first that we're going, I think that the lessons are putting more focus on the dual. So to make something dual, you add either alif noon or ya noon. Now, to know which one is which, if you guys remember, like way back in lesson 1, I believe, they covered the concept of rafa, nasab, and jar, right? Remember that? Rafa being the default, nasab being that which is indicated by fatha, and jar being that which is indicated by kasra. So, sorry, one quick second. Here. Okay. So, that I'm not going to get into too many details on that because I don't think you guys are quite there yet. But you know, it's natural to ask the question, why are there two different endings for dual? Well, the reason is because it depends on the state. If it's in rafa'a state, I'll go ahead and put it here. If it's in rafa'a state, then it's going to be alif noon. If it's the state for this, if it's the state of either nasb or jar, then it's going to be with the ya noon. So don't worry so much about that right now. That kind of lesson about when to use which will come later, as far as I know. Just know that for dual, you add either alif noon or ya noon, specifically where to the end of the singular word, which is ismun mufradun. So this is a bit complicated. All you do is you add alif noon to the end of the singular. Okay, let's do an example. Let's say, okay, really simple example. Muslim. Everyone knows what this means. Muslimun, right? This means one Muslim. Now let's make a dual. In fact, I'm not going to. Can someone tell me how to make this dual? Let's see if you guys know.
Slimani.
Excellent, very good. So you take the root, which is this, right? So far we know this is the word itself. This is the singular. Then you add alif noon, okay? And again, don't worry about alif noon, ya noon, like which one to do. For now, just assume alif noon, okay? Now then we add alif noon. Muslimani, this is two Muslims. Simple as that. You just take the word, add alif noon to the end. That alif noon indicates duality, or the state of having two things. Now what if I had this? Same word, but now female Muslim. And by the way, how do we know it's female? Because of the ta marbuta at the end, right? Because of this thing right here, okay? So muslimatun, sorry?
That's fine.
Go ahead, please. What were you going to say?
I was about to say the dual of Muslimatun.
Which is?
Muslimatani.
Excellent, very good, excellent, very good. So this is the root. Now, then what we do is, okay, so yes, you're right, Muslimatani, perfect. Now here's what confuses students. It's natural to write it like this, okay? Because you're taking the word, which is this original word, and you're adding an alif noon. However, this is not possible. Why? Because ta marbuta can never be attached to another letter on the left. Okay? It can be attached on the right. Well, as you can see, it's being attached to the meme here, right? It's being meme and ta marbuta. Ta marbuta, however, can never, ever, 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 ever attach on the left. Okay? Like a hard and fast rule. The normal ta can, ta maftuha can, but not ta marbuta. Therefore, you have to change this ta marbuta to a ta. Okay? And this is two female Muslims. Do you guys see how I did that? So this originally was a ta marbuta like this. However, we just established that a ta marbuta can never be attached to the side. Therefore, this becomes converted to a normal ta. Muslimatani. Okay, but this is important to know because we can't just say Muslimatun and then make it a Muslimani. Because Muslimani refers to two male Muslims. I should probably put that here. Two male Muslims, right? But Muslimatani specifically refers to two female Muslims. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, stop me at any point if it doesn't make sense. But this is the concept of dual. You just add alif noon. And if it's a feminine word, you make sure to change the ta marbuta to a ta, a normal ta, ta maftuha, and then add the alif noon. But the whole basic idea is just you just add alif noon. That's what it means to be dual, okay? By the way, this example is in the Quran quite a bit too. Okay, so that's that. Oh, another thing. Note that the tanween disappears, okay? So if you notice here, Muslimun, what's at the end? Dhammatain, right? Like tanween. In Muslimani, there's no tanween. The tanween goes away. Instead, the noon at the end has a kasra. This is always the case, okay? The noon has a kasra here, the noon has a kasra here. It's just the way it is. Why did they do that? I don't know. I don't know if there's even a reason. It might be theoretical, but the point is that the dhammatain here goes away and it becomes a noon with a kasra. The tanween is gone. Okay? Okay. So again, stop me at any point if you have questions. I'm just going to keep on going. Yep, we just covered that. I'm just looking at the video lesson as my template here. We just covered that. Yes. I'd like to do a few more examples just to make sure you guys understand. And I'm going to use an example that's not as clear cut or obvious. Can anyone tell me, so first of all, can anyone tell me what this word means? Second of all, can anyone tell me how to make this word into dual?
Baitun.
Good. What does it mean?
It is the like house, one
Good.
singular.
Good. How do we make it dual?
Baitani.
Good. Excellent. Baytani. Does everyone see how that occurred? This is the root, right? And then what we do is we add alif noon with the kasra at the end. This becomes baytani. Okay, so you just take the word and you add alif noon afterward. Baytani. Okay. Now I like for someone else to give me. I'm going to give another example. And I'd like for someone else, Aziza is very good at it. Thank you, Aziza. I want someone else to just see if I can make sure that everyone has it down well. Can someone else tell me, first of all, and I think you all should know what this is, but just making sure, tell me what this word means. And this is the singular version. Okay, you know what? Let me just, I forgot, house, singular. What does this word mean? And also how do you make it into dual?
Jannatan.
Jannah.
Good, what does it mean?
Jannah is a garden.
Yeah, good, garden paradise. Yeah, that's
And yeah, if we make it dual, it's Jannatani.
good. Now, don't forget everyone that perfect. Now remember this plus alif noon becomes jannatani because we have to change this ta marbuta to a ta. Jannatani. Good, excellent. I think you guys get this, so that's fine. We just covered this. Okay, let's go ahead and cover this real quick. Now, don't worry about the details as much unless you guys are ready for it. I'm not entirely sure. But this, the above, is for the state of rafa, okay? Now for nasb and jar, I hope this looks familiar for you guys. You should have at least basically, at a basic level, studied these things before. You add ya noon, okay? With also the kasra at the end, and I'll show you how that's supposed to look. So for example, let's use the same example, okay, as before, bait. This is going to be baytayni, okay? So it's basically baytun plus yanu. Okay, this is how it looks. Baytayni. No, it's note it's baytayni, not baytina, baytayni. Okay, baytayni. Again, don't worry about so much as to when to know what to use. Just know that for nasab and jar, you make it dual by adding yanun instead of alif nun. Okay, but the point is this is how you do dual. Okay. Okay, so that's that. I hope that wasn't too confusing for you guys. I'd like to move on to plurals, but before that, does anyone have any questions on dual? Dual is a really important concept to know. Does anyone have any questions at all about how to use dual and how to identify dual?
No, thank you.
Excellent. Anyone else? I will assume silence means no questions. Okay, sounds good. Again, if any questions, just interrupt me at any point. Let's go now to plurals. Plurals are a bit more complicated, but it's really not that hard. There's 3 types of plurals, okay? There's sound masculine plural, sound feminine plural, and broken plural. We're going to give the Arabic for each of these. Sound masculine plural is what's called jam'a. So you guys should recognize that word at least. Jam'a. Jam'a al-mudhakkar salimu. Sound feminine plural, so I'm just going to copy paste this because the first word and the third word are still the same. And I'll just change this word. And this asalimu. Broken plural is jam'a taksir. You'll probably see the word kasara in here. It's the same root that means broken, or to break rather. So sound masculine plural, sound feminine plural are quite easy. Broken plural is where it gets a bit trickier. Sound feminine plural. So remember this plural. I'm going to make sure I put here 3 or more. Okay, that's what we mean by plural. Sound masculine plural is really simple. You just take the ism, and specifically it's ism mudhakkar, right? Because mudhakkar means masculine. This is where knowing these terms is really helpful. Plus ya noon, or sorry, waw noon, or that o means or. Ya noon. How to know the difference? It depends on the case, okay? So an example of this is, so for example, Muslim. And then now if you want to make a dual, this comes in the Quran quite frequently as well. It becomes Muslimuna. Note, here we had a dhammatain, Muslimun. Here, the dhammatain is gone, the tanween is gone. Instead, we put it like just one dhamma, and we added a waw noon. Okay. Similarly, for muslimun plus ina, it becomes, and again, this is for, I'll just put it in, okay, but this is for, above is for rafa, and this muslimun is for rafa, muslimina is for nasbun and jar. It's muslimina with the ya noon, okay? This comes in the Quran quite a bit. So that's how, it's really quite simple. That's how you make any mudhakkar, ism mudhakkar, any masculine ism, specifically for masculine. That's what they call it sound masculine plural, because you're making the masculine out of the, you're making the plural out of the masculine. You just how to make any plural, any masculine into the plural. Jam'a al-mudhakkar salim, okay? You just add, you add waw noon or ya noon to it. Sound feminine plural is similar. This is specifically for feminine words. That's why they call it sound feminine plural. Jam'a al-mu'annath salimu. You take the ism, specifically that which is mu'annath, you add alif ta, either this or, which is o, this, alif ta, like that, okay? This one, the first one is like with the dhammatain, alif with the ta dhammatain, that's for rafa state. Alif and ta with the kasratain is for nasab or jar state. So for example, if we have muslima, remember, because we have to make it feminine because we're talking about feminine here, muslimatun plus alif and ta, it becomes muslimatun, like plural, like many female Muslims, okay? Similarly, and this is for the stay for raf'a. For sorry, rather Muslim. So if we're going to do now, this is specifically for the state of Nasb and Jar. Muslim something. Muslimatun plus alif like this. This becomes Muslimatin. This is for the state of Nasb and Jar. Now notice one thing. You cannot say Muslima like this. You cannot say Muslimatan. There is no fathatain for sound feminine plural. This is just the way it is. It's either atun or atin. It's never atan. Okay, there's no fathatain possible for this. This is something that students get confused a lot and they make mistakes on this a lot. There's no such thing as Muslimatan. It's always either Muslimatun for Rafa state or Muslimatin for Nasab and Muslimatin for Jar. There's no Muslimatan. Okay, I'm specifically talking about the sound feminine plural. So these two are pretty simple. They're called sound. They're called salim, which is sound, because the original word does not get broken up. Okay, that's why. It's similar to what we call regular plural in English. Now, broken plural is on the other end of the spectrum. Broken plural is where the original word does indeed get broken up. That's because they call it broken plural. I think in English they call it an irregular plural, okay? Here, the above rules do not apply, okay? Like above. You don't add waw noon or alif ta or anything like that to these. In fact, there's no rules necessarily to guide. There are patterns that are associated with broken plural, but not really any rule. So I'll give you a quick example. So it's like, think of this as like an exception. These are irregular. What people call in English grammar is irregular, meaning that there's no regular rule to them. It's just you have to know it, but by just knowing it. Okay. So one common example is masjid. You all know what a masjid is. This is the place we pray in. Its plural is masajid. Don't worry about the ending right now. There's a reason why it's a dhamma, one dhamma, but we're not going to worry about that right now. That's definitely not at your level at the moment. Masajid. Now, notice here, I did not say masjiduna. I did not say masjidina. I did not say masjidatun. I did not say masjidatin. I said masajid. Here, the word is being broken up. Why? Because we are introducing an alif right here, okay? We're putting an alif in the integrity of the word, in the middle of the word. Thereby, we are breaking the integrity of the word. That's why they call it broken plural. You take the original and you break it up. Sometimes it's broken up in many places, sometimes just one place. But as long as it's broken up at least one place, it's considered a broken plural, okay? Because I'm not saying masjidani or sorry, masjiduna or masjidina or masjidatun, masjidatin. All of those, the original word is still there. Here, the word is broken up because we introduce an alif in the way right smack dab in the middle of it. Okay, I'll give you another example of this. In fact, let me see if the video lesson has particular examples. By the way, the broken plural is by far the most common plural. So even though it's an exception, it's actually the most common. The only way we can know it is just by learning the patterns and just reading a lot and seeing in the Quran and just lots of exposure to it, and you'll start to pick them up. Okay, that's really the only way that I know. We just talked about that. Yep, we talked about that. Yep, we just talked about that. Just got that taken care of. Yep, we talked about that. I'm trying to get to the broken plural here. Here we go. Right, there are patterns, but there are no rules. Keep that in mind. Okay, so another example is this one, okay? Kitabun. Kitabun. Oh, someone's entering. Okay, kitabun means book. So kitabun means book. What is its plural? Its plural is kutubun. Notice here, this word is not the same as kitab. Why? Because look here. Here, first of all, If you notice here, this first kaf has a kasra, right? However, this kaf has a dhamma. That's the first thing that's been changed. Secondly, there's a fatha in the singular kitab, right? There's no fatha here. We took out the fatha. We have two changes to the integrity of the word, therefore it's broken plural. Does that make sense, guys? Do you see how I'm coming from this? It's a broken plural. In other words, you take the original word and you break it up in various ways, at least one way. Okay, it has to be in order for it to come to that. So that's why this is a broken plural. And how do I know the pattern? It just takes practice. Really, that's the only way you can really get this down. They're giving examples, but I'm trying to find a more apt example. Okay, so for example, you guys all, I want someone to help me out with this just to make sure you guys aren't falling asleep on me. What does the word, anyone can tell me, what does the word Rasul mean?
Messenger.
Good, messenger. It's plural. Can anyone take a guess as to what the plural is?
Rusul.
Also,
Good. Excellent, Rusul. Can someone tell me what has changed from this word to this word?
we add dhamma to the ra
Good.
and remove the waw.
Excellent. So first of all, we changed this fatha on the ra to a dhamma here on the ra. Secondly, this waw that was here in the singular is no longer present in the plural. It was taken out. Therefore, it's broken up. Therefore, it's Jama' Taksir. Okay?
Just not a question.
Yes, please.
How would you say it in dual form for those three words, that
Oh.
three examples that you gave as broken plurals?
Excellent question. Very good question. So let me just one second. I got a chat message here. Okay, no worries, Sarah. If you have to leave, no problem. I totally understand. The good thing about it is it's office hours, so anyone can enter and leave at any point. So no worries at all. Thanks for informing me. Okay, cool. So, okay, good question. The good thing about dual is there is no concept of brokenness in dual. There's just not a concept of taksir in dual. Dual is quite simple. You add alif noon or ya noon, depending on the case, and that's it. There's no concept of it being broken in dual. So for example, we'll take the words here. Masjid. If you want to say two masjid or two masjids, it would be masjidani. So you take the original and you add alif noon. Simple as that. And it could be masjidaini, just depending on what state it's in, okay? But the point is you add one of these to it. The best part about it is that there is no right. Okay, Usma. Yeah. Okay, sounds good. I'm going. Yeah, I'm going over the concept at this moment. In fact, so but to answer your question real quick, what it could be either masjidani or masjidaini. Don't worry. So you'll eventually learn like when to detect the particular case that is being used, whether it's rafa, nasab, or jar. The point here is that just being able to identify. You just add alif nun or ya nun to it. The best part about it is for dual, there is no concept of being broken. It only applies to the plural when it comes to brokenness. So whatever, all these words have broken plural, but the dual is right. It's really simple. You just take the singular and you make it into dual. So for example, kitab then would just be kitab. 1 second. Kitab. Nope, not that. Like this. Kitabani. Or
Kitabaini.
excellent. Good. Kitabaini. Okay. Similarly, for Rasul, if we're talking about two messengers, we'd say Rasulani or Rasulaini. Okay. Rasul, which is the original word, and then Rasulani or Rasulaini. Does that make sense? I'm not sure who asked the question, sorry, but does that make sense?
Yes, Jazakallah.
Well, yeah. Oh, perfect. Good. So I'm glad it made sense. All right. So for us, though, someone was asking about let's see the chat. Rusulun, right? Okay. So I'll get to that. Let me go ahead and answer. So someone had come in and asked about Uzma had asked about the concept of Dunam Pro. So we did cover it, but I'll go ahead and quickly cover it real quick. Okay. So I hope you can see my screen. Also, if you're wanting access to this Google document, it's in the group chat that I just shared. Basically dual, the concept of dual is when you have two things. Okay, so I'm going back up here. I'll just quickly mention it because we covered this in detail, but I'll quickly give a quick synopsis of it. You have singular, dual, and plural. Singular is just one thing. Dual is two. It doesn't exist in English, but in Arabic it means referring to two things. Plural is three or more. To make something dual, you just add alif noon for the state of rafa, or you add ya noon for the state of nasab or jar. Don't worry about identifying whether it's nasab, jar, rafa. You'll get to that later. Just understand the key is to recognize them right now. So alif noon for dual, for or ya noon. Okay. So for example, Muslim is one Muslim. Muslima. So this is the word Muslim, and then you take that word and you add Muslimani. You add the alif noon to it. Now you take the dhammatain here and you replace it with the noon kasra. So that dhammatain is gone. Therefore, it becomes Muslimani. Muslimatun becomes a Muslimatani. You take this ta marbuta, which you have to change to a ta, and add alif noon to it. Muslimatani. It becomes dual tense like that. Okay. Let's see here. When do we add tu ta with dhamma versus tun dhammatain to make plural? Ah, yes. Okay, I see. So, Shilpa, are you referring to the broken plural, like this one here, for example, where kutubun?
No, like in general also, like when I see some words they take like un at the end versus some words they only take like tu. So I get confused there.
Right. Trying to see. You mean like, for example, this masajidu versus kutubun, right?
Yeah, that could be, or like in like two words. For example, like Jannah will become Jannatun, and Al Muslimanu it will become Al Muslimatu. It won't become a Muslimatun, right?
Actually, no, it is muslimatun. Right up here, muslimatun. Okay, so the first way to know is if you add alif lam or not. So if you add alif lam, remember how we said if you add alif lam, it can never have tanween, right? It's either or. So muslimatu versus al muslima. Oh, sorry. Muslimatun. Okay, I should probably put the harakat for you guys. So muslima. Oops, I meant to say muslim. So al-muslimatu versus muslimatun. The first way to identify, which is not always perfect, but generally speaking, if you have alif lam at the beginning of the word, which means the, indicates specificity, you will definitely not have tanween at the end. So either you have alif lam or you have tanween. Here, this word we have tanween, but no alif lam. So that's the first way to know. Second way to know is specifically for muslimuna, like when you add waw noon and ya noon, it will never have tanween. Okay, I should probably put that down here. When you add waw noon or ya noon, it will never take tanween. It's just not possible because you're adding a noon with the kasra. Okay, so therefore it will not take tanween. Similarly for, also by the way for dual, I'll put it up here as well. For dual, here. When you, specifically this one is alif noon, the kasra, and ya noon with the kasra. When you put these, it doesn't take tanween. So first of all, sound masculine plural will not take tanween. It's just not possible. Okay, muslimuna or muslimina. You cannot say muslimunun or muslimunan. It's not possible. Musliminan is not a thing. Okay, it's muslimina. Now for sound feminine plural, it can take dhammatain, but it just depends. If you have alif lam, it will not. If you don't have alif lam, it will take tanween. Okay. Broken plural is a bit different. Do I mean fatha? Sorry, where? Did I make a mistake? Where did I mean fatha? I'm not sure. You'll have to give me an example. Sorry, I've been covering several things. I'm not sure where I said fatha. Oh, okay, correct. Okay, sounds good. Now, for broken plural, it's the same kind of concept. Now, this one, masajid has one dhamma. This I don't want you to worry about because this is an exception. It's a really complicated rule. In fact, it's called mamnu' min as-sarf. You'll learn this way later. Don't worry about this. Just know that generally speaking, it will have a tanween. Now, the way to know whether it has a tanween or not, kutubun is, a book. This has tanween, but al-kutubu does not, because it has alif lam. So basically, for sound feminine plural, muslimatun al-muslimatu, you know by the presence of alif lam or not. If it has alif lam, it won't have tanween. If it doesn't have alif lam, it will have tanween. And for broken plural, like here, you'll know based on also the same thing, alif lam or not. For sound masculine plural, there's no way to have tanween. It's going to be muslimuna or muslimina, not muslimuna or muslimina. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Excellent. Good. Okay, so we have just 20
And when
minutes.
both of them ends with like, so in case of feminine sound plurals, when both the words are ending with ta marbuta, like the singular words.
Are you talking about sound feminine plural?
Yeah.
Yes.
So when when both the words are ending with ta marbuta, so just look for al to know like whether to add dhammatain versus dhamma. Is that
Yes.
like a good recognition key?
Absolutely, yes, perfect, spot on. But remember, there was one thing. This is not a ta marbuta. This is ta maftuha. Okay, not ta marbuta. Ta marbuta. I'll quickly put it here. This is the actually, let's just make it simple. Ta marbuta, and this is ta. Yes, maftuha. So yes, Shilpa, everything you said is correct. Muslimatun or al-muslimatu, the way to know is the presence of alif lam or not. If it has alif lam, it won't have tanween. If it does not have alif lam, it will have tanween. But remember that I just want to make sure I mention this because this is an important detail. This is not ta marbuta at the end. This is a ta maftuha. Now you don't have to know the maftuha part. It's just ta. Like most of us just know it's ta. But just know it's not ta marbuta because this is definitely not a ta marbuta. That is an important. It may seem small, but it's actually not small. It's actually an important detail. Otherwise, yes, you're correct. Spot on, in fact. If you have tanween, if you have dhammatain, it's because there's no alif lam. If you have alif lam, there will not be dhammatain. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Right. So Uzma, I'll explain if we have time towards the end, I'll explain the concept. We kind of, I know you came a little late. We kind of explained the concept in quite a bit of detail. So let me explain everything else that we can, and then if we have time later, we can explain it. If not, I have a few minutes afterward. I'm welcome. If you have time, I can explain it after the session, and if not, then I can arrange another way to explain it to you as well. So. It's just I want to make sure that just due to everyone else's time, I want to make sure we get through everything as we can get through. Okay, perfect. So if and this goes for everyone. If anyone wants to stay a little late afterward, I have a few minutes, like maybe 10 or 15. I can explain anything if you have any stuff you want to go over in any case. But just to be fair with everyone else's time, I do want to make sure we get through whatever material else that we can. So okay, that's that. Cool. So we've actually covered everything, I think, at least with that material. We have yep, okay, so we just covered that. So in the video lesson are Quranic examples. I don't quite have time to go over them right now, but I just want to make sure we get through the material that we need to cover. But in any case, they're in the video lesson and we can always go over them later as well. Just seeing what else there is. Right, that's just a review of what we've covered. Okay, cool. I am going to stop share real quick as I get to the next thing. Okay, so the next thing is conjugations, what they call sarf or morphology in Arabic, but yeah, it's in a nutshell. kind of a simplification of it, it's basically conjugation. So the thing about conjugations is there's not really any way I can teach you per se. This just takes a lot of practice, like a lot of going over it, lots of different verbs, practicing it, a lot of exposure to it, memorizing it, just, like flashcards, all that kind of stuff, right? Darastu, darasna, darasta, darastuna, darastun, darasti, darastuna, darastuna, darastu, darasna, darasa, darasu, darasat, darasata, daraset, darasata, darasna. How did I just do it without even thinking about it? Because I've been doing this for several years. It just takes a lot of practice. I used to be in your shoes where, I would really struggle with this too. In fact, this is the one thing that gives everyone a headache, really. But it just takes a lot of practice. So, okay, but I'm just seeing this is stuff we've actually covered last time. Right, okay. So we have actually covered this. I'll go ahead through this briefly. This is really important, so I'm gonna practice this and then, that's pretty much it for today. So I'm glad we went over this stuff in particular because this is the stuff that is less memorization and more like theory. But now I'm gonna go back and go through. The good thing is I have notes on this stuff too. So let's see where it, oh, here we go. Okay. So if you're in my Google document, it's like you can do a control search to find it as well, or control F to find it. But it's right. It's basically here. Okay, so remember just a big quick thing. There are 3 tenses in Arabic: past, present, command. Future tense, even though it's a tense in English, it's not really a tense in the sense of the word in Arabic. You have past, present, and command. Past tense is al-fi'l al-madi. And yes, you do need to eventually memorize this. This is a really important terminology you'll see countless times in your future. Definitely know it. Every verb has a 3-letter root. Some of them have 4-letter roots, but generally speaking, it's not very common. Usually they have 3-letter roots, okay? So for example, darasa. You probably all have learned this one by now. It means he studied. The root is da-ra-sa, okay? On the pattern of fa'ala, which you don't need to quite worry about right now. Another example is ghafara. He forgave, okay? The root has 3 letters. I'll give you an example as to what it means to have a root. If you look at the following word, istaghfara. You all know, like when I say astaghfirullah, right? It means I seek forgiveness from Allah. But why does it mean that? It's because, first of all, the root is the last 3 letters. This right here. Gha, fa, ra. That's the root. The root means to forgive. And you don't need to know this right now, but I'm just giving an example, okay? When you add the alif, sin, ta at the beginning, it means to request whatever the verb is, okay? So you're requesting forgiveness. Istaghfara, he requested the root, which is he requested forgiveness. So that's what that means. But the point is that you're always looking at the root. And the good thing is, if you can figure out what the root means, you can generally figure out the rest because everything's built upon the root. So this verb, if you didn't know what the root was, you wouldn't be able to figure out that it means he requested forgiveness. Once you know the root, and then once you know the extra little rule that alif sin ta usually means requesting something, then you know it means he requested forgiveness. So you guys will go through a lot more roots as you go along. The key to the Arabic language is to know as many roots as possible. That's what the whole Hansware, if you guys have heard of the Hansware dictionary, that's the whole dictionary. It's just basically a dictionary of roots. It tells you what the root is. And then of course it goes through and tells you, like, if you add this letter, here's what it means. If you add this letter, if you take off this letter, if you add a shadda, if you take off the shadda, here's what this letter means, right? But that's the whole point of it. You take the root and you add to it. So the basic is knowing the root. Once you know the root meaning, you can go from there. So basically, lesson 3 as well as lesson 4 go through the conjugation. So this stuff I'm hoping should be pretty familiar to you all. You're just doing conjugations, okay? They call it tasrifat in Arabic, but in English they call it conjugations. In English, it's not that much done as much as it is like in French and Spanish and especially German. I've heard German does a lot of this, but in Arabic it's very important because this is like the basics of being able to use verbs, basically. So there's three types of, not tense. I don't actually know how to describe it. It's like there's 3 types of views, you could say. First person, second person, third person. First person is pretty simple. It's called actually I'm gonna go to it real quick. Actually, you know what? Let's go in order. Sorry, let's go in order of the Google document. Let's do third person first. Third person is what called al-ghaib. Ghaib comes from ghaba yughibu ghaiba. The ghaba, the root, means to be absent. Meaning, al-ghaib is the one who is absent, which makes sense because in third person, you're not talking to yourself. You're also not talking to someone. You're talking about someone in their absence. That's what it means to be third person. So for example, kataba, he wrote. You're not saying you wrote. You're not saying I or we wrote. You're saying he wrote. In other words, you're talking about someone in their absence. Or it doesn't necessarily have to be in their absence, but you're talking about someone. That's third person. So it's quite simple. It's kataba, he wrote. And then to make it she wrote, it's katabat, katabat. And I mean, like, there's no logical reasoning for these. It's just, you just have to know that this is how you do it, right? This is how you form the feminine version. In English, we say he wrote. So then how do we say in feminine? We say she wrote, right? We add an S at the beginning of he. So it becomes S-H-E. Is there any rhyme or reasoning to why we put an S instead of like a P or an F or a Z or something else in English? I mean, there might be. I certainly don't know what that reason is, but I mean, there might be. I just don't know it. I don't know if there really is a reason. But similarly in English, how you put an S in front of HE to make it she, which indicates the feminine version of he. Similarly in Arabic, you add a ta at the end here to indicate past tense, she wrote. What's the reason? I don't know if there is a reason. It's just how the Arabs designed this. So as I said here, kataba plus ta, okay? So how will you get this down? Lots and lots of practice with lots of verbs. And this is the basics of it, okay? So then you have dual. Kataba. You take this, which is the root, and then you add alif, okay? If you've noticed, alif is very commonly used for dual. So for example, you know how we said Muslimun becomes Muslimani for dual? Yes, we also add a noon, but that alif is the biggest thing. That alif is the biggest sign of duality, or the biggest indicator of duality. Similarly here, that alif indicates duality. So when you say kataba, it means they too wrote. Again, in English, we don't say it like this, right? In English, we don't have dual, but in Arabic, we do. It's really important, in fact. Now, katabu, we add this, wow, alif. Don't worry about why there's an alif there. That'll come later. Just know there's a wow and alif. It means they, the three plus wrote. And then you have the following. This is the weird one. It's like an exception to everything. In Arabic, if you're referring to only females, it has its own situation. Basically, what you do is this. Oh, actually, no, sorry, I have it written right here. Kataba, you change this, you change the original, like, you know, how it's a fatha here. You change that fatha here to a dhamma. This, I'm sorry, to a sukoon. This becomes a sukoon, and you add noon with the fatha. Why? I don't know. It's just is the way it is. Katabna. This is when you're talking about 3 plus females only females. As soon as you introduce a male into the picture, you go back to this katabu by default. So theoretically, you could have 1,000 females. You use katabna. As soon as you introduce one man into this, it becomes katabu, back to katabu. Okay, it's just the way the language works. And how do we? I mean, how are we going to get this down? Again, lots and lots of practice. There are patterns. I mean, there's not really a logical reasoning for these rules. I mean, there's some theories out there, but like for our purposes, we just memorize them. You know. Second person is called al-mukhatib. Why do they call it this? Because second person, you're addressing someone. You're saying you all, you feminine. You're addressing someone. You guys have heard the word khutbah, right? It's the same root. Khutbah, it's a speech that's addressing the audience during Friday prayers, right? During Jumu'ah. So that's what they call it al-mukhatib. You are addressing someone, okay? So this is actually relatively easy. You take kataba, you put a sukoon on the last letter, which is this, right? The last root letter specifically, and then you add whatever the ending is. Specifically for you, masculine, is going to be katabta. So if you're talking to me as a man, you're going to say katabta. You wrote because I'm a man. Katabta. If I'm talking to most of the students here are females, as far as I can tell. So if I'm talking to any of you, I would say katabti. Katabti. Why? Because you feminine wrote. I'm talking to feminine. Okay. This is generally the case. The fatha usually indicates masculine. Well, see the fatha on the ta, and the kasra on the ta usually indicates feminine. Katabtuma. Notice here, This is for dual. You guys see the alif again? I know there's a meme, but don't worry about that as much. There's an alif, right? Remember how I said the alif, generally speaking, indicates duality? Same thing here. Now, you don't just say katabta. You have to say katabtuma with a dhamma on this ta and a fatha with a meme with the fatha here. But like, notice the patterns. The pattern is, generally speaking, when you see the alif, it means dual. But anyway, you basically do what you do is you say kataba, in this case sukun, plus tuma. Katabtuma, you two wrote. Now remember, here, this is not gender specific. It can refer to two men, two women, or a man and a woman. It is not gender specific, okay? How will you know? By context. Like when you read the rest of the sentence, you know who it's talking about, basically. Because here I'm not giving the rest of the sentence because it's not necessary right now. But in normal situations, you would, like in the Quran, you would have the rest of the ayah to tell you who it's talking about, basically, okay? The next one is katabtum. This one, so what you do is you add kataba, right? But remember the ba has a sukoon plus this, tum. This is you all three plus wrote. Remember though, this is for, it can be a group of men or a group of men and women. But as long as there's men in there, right? Again, this is the default, katabtum, okay? Katabtunna is the weird one. Weird in terms of it's an exception. This is the one which is specifically only for females, okay? And what it is it's like this. It is kataba, but remember the ba becomes a sukoon, or the last letter becomes a sukoon. It's like that. Katabtunna. When you see this tunna, this is, especially you guys see this noon with the shadda, that's very, I'll put it right here. Noon with the shadda is a sign of female only. Okay, like when you see how we're using it for females only, generally speaking, if you see this noon with the shadda, it's not perfectly like this, but generally speaking, it's a good indicator that, okay, now we're about to deal with a situation where there's only females. So katatunna, you all 3 plus females only wrote. You all wrote, but only 3 plus females. As soon as it could be like 1,000 females or 1,000,000 females, as long as it's only females, you use this. And as soon as you introduce one male into the group, so it could be like 1,000 females, when you introduce one man into the group, it becomes katabtum, because you introduced a man into it, okay? I know this is a bit confusing. This will get clear with a lot of practice, really, okay? I'm going to introduce first person, and then if there are any questions about this, please feel free to ask. First person is the easiest of them all. First of all, it's called al-mutakallim. At some point, I recommend knowing that word. Why? Because takallama means to speak, okay? In the Quran, it comes kallamallahu Musa. I think, if I remember correctly, Allah spoke to Musa. If I remember correctly, that's the arrangement of the ayah. Don't quote me on that. But it's the same roots, basically. Takallama means to speak. Al-mutakallim is the one speaking. In other words, you're speaking to either as a group, which is we, or by yourself, I, okay? It's also really easy. It's just kataba, or whatever verb it is, right? The verb, of course, changes. Remember that the last letter gets a sukoon, and you just add ta with the dhamma. Katabtu, I wrote. La'ibtu, I played. Fa'altu, I did. Sabahtu, I swam. Notice in all of them, I'm saying tu at the end. Okay, that's the key. The verb changes, but the tu at the end is what's key. Same thing with the katabna. It's just, well, normally it would be kataba with the sukoon, but because we're adding something, it becomes bas sukoon plus na. Okay, so katabna, we wrote. Fa'alna, we did. La'ibna, we played. Sabahna, we swam. Ma'rasna, we practice, you know? So it's the same thing, different verbs, but they all end with noon alif. That noon alif, I'll give you, this noon alif is an indicator of we, when you use we, okay? So that was a quick crash course in the conjugation. This was pretty much a combination of lesson 3 and 4. I know time is almost up, guys, but does anyone have any oh, by the way, I'm okay with going 10-15 minutes above, but does anyone have any questions at all about this material or anything we covered today?
No, thank you for the crash course.
You're welcome. Absolutely. I'm happy to help. So I am available for 10-15 more minutes. You guys are welcome. Anyone is welcome to leave. I'm not holding you. Actually, you're welcome to leave at any point, really. But technically, this is the end of office hour sessions today. If you want to stay along for questions, I'll be available for 10-15 more minutes. No problem at all. If you want to leave, you're welcome to leave. Basically, one of the students had asked for an explanation of dual again. So it's just going to be a reiteration of what I've already covered. Therefore, if you want to leave, you're welcome to. If you want to stay, you're totally fine to stay. I'm just going to be covering it again. Okay, dual and plural, that's fine. I'm happy to do dual and plural, but because this is a review of what we've already covered, you are by no means obligated to stay. You're welcome to leave, but I mean, if you want to stay, that's totally fine too. If you want another review, that's fine too. Aziza, that's fine, Aziza, totally fine. Like I
Will
said,
we
you're welcome.
have access to this document?
Absolutely, yes. So yes. Shilpa, are you able to open it right now? Or are you in front of a computer? Well, I mean, I know you are for this Zoom session, but
Yeah, I can open it right now.
yeah. I changed it so that, I'll tell you what I'll do. I if for those, you know what I'll do? Okay. Because all right, so as you know, guys, and I will get to the explanation soon, but basically how this office hours group thing works is this, by the way, this is not my doing. This is the policy of Fulbaki Institute, right? Because I'm, they're my employers. That we're not. I don't get paid for this. And they're my bosses, you can say. Alhamdulillah, I do this on a voluntary basis. But in any case, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. So, please understand that I am required to like exit everyone out of the group. It's not anything against you guys. It's just that we renew the group every week. Okay. So what's easiest upon policy is just exiting everyone out of the group, and then whoever is interested in, because we get a mix of students every week, whoever is interested in rejoining the group needs to rejoin via the link that I send out, like usually like the Sunday before class, like the day before class, and you just join it. However, I noticed the one difficulty, which is that when I exit you, you can't rejoin on your own. So I didn't really see that coming. So basically, this time I might ask you all to leave on your own, like manually leave on, like by like exit the group on your own, and then you can just, if you want to join next week, you're welcome to join. It's the same link again, and I'll send a reminder. So number one, number two, I'm sure this Google document is helpful for you all. So I will probably post it on the Wednesday and Sunday group level 1A group chats, so that you all have access to it again. And this time I changed the settings so that anyone with the link can have access to it. So you don't have to I don't have to give you permission. It's already given. So all you have to do is just open the link. So yes, I will share it again with you in the level 1A chats. So that it's readily accessible for you all, and you should be able to open it. If there's any issues with opening it, just send a message on the group chat saying, hey, I can't open it, and I'll just give you access. But I don't think that'll occur. But if it does, let me know. It'll be posted, Uzma. It'll be posted on the level 1A chats, like Wednesday and Sunday. Okay, the ones that you guys have regular access to. Okay, you'll see. After the class, you'll see what I mean. So, okay.
Okay, Jazakallah khair.
وإياك
It was really
وإياكم.
helpful.
Oh, no problem. I'm happy to help. If you guys need to leave, you're welcome to. I'm gonna stay and explain dual and plural once more. So you're welcome to say if you want to. If you want to leave, no problem. And yes, you're welcome. Absolutely, no problem. Okay, so we've got about 7 to 10 or so minutes. Alaikum salam, Shilpa. No worries. Sorry, someone sent something else in the chat. I just want to see. Oh, you're welcome, Aisha. I'm more than happy to help. Aisha might have left. Yeah, Aisha left. Okay, in any case, that's fine. I'm happy to help. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I'm happy it helps. Okay, so for the 2 students remaining, let's go ahead and do a quick review. So, from what I understand, Uzma, your question is just you want me to go over dual and plural again. I hope that's my understanding. Let's see here. So I have notes on it. Uzma, you can see my Google document, right, that I'm sharing right now, correct? Good. You're very confused. Okay. Well, that's what I'm here for. Okay, so let me just get to trying to find out where it is here. Here we go. Okay. So if you look at the Google document, it's actually not too difficult. It just takes a little bit of explaining, okay? So I think 10 minutes should be sufficient, hopefully. And if we need more, no problem, I don't mind. Okay, so the first thing, Uzma, is there's three, in English, there's just singular and plural. Okay, singular refers to like one thing, okay? Plural refers to two or more. In Arabic, however, we have the concept of dual. Dual means two. This does not exist in English, but it does exist in Arabic and other languages too, but in Arabic including. In Arabic, there's the concept of dual. In singular, by the way, the word is mufrad. At some point, I recommend you memorize that word. It's a good term to know. The singular means one of something, okay? Dual means two of something, two, only two, not one, not three, just two. That's what it means to be dual, okay? The word is muthanna in Arabic. Plural is jama. Plural means three or more. So you have singular, which is one, dual, which is two, plural, which is three and more, 3 plus, okay? So to make something dual, it's actually quite simple, or relatively simple. You take the singular version and you add this to it. You add alif noon, or you add a ya noon. If you remember from previous lessons, you add alif noon for the state of rafa. Now, I don't want you to worry that much about the state of rafa and nasab and jar. That stuff is a bit complicated, and you'll learn the details of how to identify and detect which state it is later on, okay? Right now, I just want you to understand the concept of duality. For dual, you can add alif noon or ya noon. Alif noon or ya noon. When you add these, it becomes dual. Now, let's give examples so that it's kind of clear, okay? I'm sure that you have both heard the, when would we know when to add? Oh, yeah, so you would know, so by context, when you're referring to two Muslims or to anything that's with two, that's when you add these things, okay? So for example, let's go into an example. When you have the word Muslim, that's one. Muslim is one Muslim, right? Let's say you want to talk about two Muslims. You would add alif noon to the end. It becomes muslimani, muslimani. You take this dhammatain on top of the meme, the dhammatain becomes changed to an alif, a fatha, a fatha, and you add alif noon. Muslimani, two Muslims. So how would you know when to add it? It's just by context. Like when you want to talk about two Muslims, it becomes muslimani. Similarly with muslimatun, female Muslim, you take this ta and you specifically, so you can't say the following, by the way. You cannot say muslimata, why is it okay? You cannot, why is it, 1 second. There we go. You cannot say muslimatani like this. You have to change the ta marbuta into a ta, okay? Because muslimatani is just not possible to be used in that way, okay? Let me see a chat in here. Why not ya noon? Ya noon is for plural. We're gonna get to that, okay? Ya noon is for plural. Oh, wait a second. Oh, I see. Okay, I see what you mean. I see. Yes, you can say the following. You can. This is also the case. When will you, so it can be Muslimani. When do you know which one to use? You'll learn that later. I know it's confusing because students just want to know right now how to use it. Trust me, you're not at the level to, I don't think you're at the level quite yet to understand that. The way to learn Arabic is you have to learn it in increments, slowly but surely. At this moment, I wouldn't be able to explain to you which one to use because that's when to use nasab jar rafa is in a much later stage of things. Right now, just know that muslimani, alif nun and ya nun, when you see that, that means dual, okay? Right. So the big thing to know is that this word and this word are in dual. Why? Because you're saying muslimani and muslimaini, okay? They're in dual form. Right now, the key thing is recognition, identifying it, okay? Muslimatun, the weird thing about this one is you can't, so the actual root word is this, right? This is the root word, right? Muslima plus this. But when you combine it together, you can never have this. Ta marbuta can never be connection on the left. You have to change this letter to a ta. It has to be, always the case. This is specifically for female things, for feminine things, okay? Muslimatun becomes muslimatani. But remember, you cannot say this. Ta marbuta, it's not possible because the ta marbuta never connects on the left side. You have to change this to a ta. in any case, then when you change it to a ta, it becomes muslimatani. You can also say muslimatayni, right? With the yanun, like we explained before. When to know which one to use, that's for a later lesson. Just be able to recognize the dual here, okay? And again, I just explained this. So I hope that makes sense. Now, these are just more examples of it now. Cool, excellent. These are more examples of it now. Bait means house, baytun. How do we make the dual? Well, you take the word baytun. Remember that this dhammatain on top of the ta has to change to an alif. But anyway, you add alif nun. So what you end up with is, this is the root, right? Bait. This dhammatain that was originally on the ta becomes a fatha, and then you add alif nun. Baytun becomes baytani. You can also say baytaini. Okay, again, you'll learn later how to tell the difference. Just know that these are the duals, baytani, baytani. Similarly, jannah becomes, see how this jannatun has a dhammatain, that dhammatain changes to a fatha. And also, don't forget, we cannot say this, right? We cannot say jannatani like this. That ta marbuta never connects on the left. It has to be converted to a ta. And this ta originally had a dhammatain, it becomes a ta with a fatha. And then you add alif nun, jannatani. And yes, you can also have jannataini. Again, don't worry about which one to use, just recognize that these two are the ways to do dual, okay? Oh, actually, I listed it here in any case. For nasab and jar, baytaini, okay? Right. Also know an important rule, these never take tanween. If you notice here, baytani, is there tanween on it? Or jannatan, oops, jannatani. Is there tanween on this? No, there's no tanween. It's actually a kasra. Is there a tanween on this one? No, there's not. Is there tanween on muslimatani? No. Is there tanween on muslimaini or muslimani? No. There is no tanween on these. It is only the alif nun, okay? That's what I mean by here. For dual, there is no tanween. So that's dual. Does that make sense so far? Excellent, very good. Now plural. Plural is a little, it's kind of somewhat easier but difficult in its own way, okay? There's three types of plural. There's sound masculine plural, sound feminine plural, and sound broken plural. So let's go through each of these. Sound masculine plural is the plural that's used for masculine terms, okay? This is the term in Arabic. At some point you'll need to know it, but for now let's just focus. Ism mudhakkar, meaning you take a masculine word and you add either una or an ina to the end, okay? Which one to use? Don't worry about it right now. Just being able to recognize it. It's about the states that you'll get into later, okay? Anyway, muslimun plus una becomes muslimuna. Note that dhammatain on the meme becomes one dhamma, and you add waw nun. Muslimuna. It's very common in the Quran, right? Muslimuna. This is for our first state. You can also say muslimina. Now note, we are not saying muslimaini. Muslimaini. Remember how we said muslimaini? This is dual. Muslimaini. Note that for muslimina is for plural. What's the difference? Well, this meme has a fatha and this noon has a kasra for dual. But in plural, this meme has a kasra and this noon has a fatha. They're switched around. The fatha here becomes a kasra here, and the kasra here becomes a fatha here. They're mixed around. Yes, this is confusing, but this is the way the language is. So just know that for you add una or ina for dual, or for sound masculine plural. Muslimun becomes muslimuna, Muslimun becomes muslimina. You'll differentiate between the two later, as some other lesson, a later lesson. But remember that it's muslimaini for dual, muslimina for plural. And also it never takes tanween. Okay, you cannot say muslimunun, it's just muslimuna. Now muslimuna and muslimuna. Sound feminine plural, Jam'a mu'annath salim. Now this one's a little easier. It's you take the feminine word and you add either atun or atin, depending on the state. Muslimatun plus atun becomes muslimatun. So what you do is you basically delete this. You delete the ta marbuta and you add the alif ta. Muslimatun, not muslimatatun, muslimatun. And muslimatin for the other states. So you delete this ta marbuta and it becomes, you put the alif noon at the end. Muslimatin, muslimatin. I want you to remember that you cannot say muslimatan. There is no such thing as muslimatan. It's either muslimatun with the dhammatain here or muslimatin with the kasratain here. There's no such thing as a fathatain, not for sound feminine plural. There is for singular, but not sound feminine plural. Okay. That's sound feminine plural. It's right. It's somewhat simple, relatively simple speaking. Okay. Now we have the concept of broken plural. Broken plural is a bit more difficult. Broken plural is called Jama' Taksir. The above rules that I just explained to you do not apply. This is what they call irregular plurals in English, because they're not regular. So for example, masjid, the easiest way to do this is to give examples. Okay, masjid, we all know what masjid is. Masjid, the plural is masajid. Now, why? There's not an answer to that question. There are patterns, but there are really no rules that apply to this. This is something you just have to memorize. You can, you don't say masjiduna, you don't say masjidina, you don't say masjidatun, you don't say masjidatin, you say masajid. Why did they call it broken plural? Here's why. This is the word masjid. If you look at the word masajid, we broke up the word. Why? Because we added an alif right in the middle of the word. This is what it means to be broken. You break the integrity of the word. You break the essence of the word and you add alif. That's why it's broken plural. This is like basically an exception. Even though it's an exception, actually most plurals are broken plurals, even though it's an exception. So therefore it's like this. Now that being said, note that the dual, there's no such thing as broken dual. Okay, duals just follow this rule. So masjid, to make a dual, is the following. Masjidani, because this is basically masjid. Sorry, never mind. That plus ani. Okay, same with this. This is masjid plus ani. Right? Remember how I said dual is ani or ani? Masjidani, masjidaini. That's different. Dual, there's no, it's not going to be broken up. Therefore, there's no concept of brokenness in dual. It's just dual. Whereas in broken plural, it's broken up because you put an alif in the beginning. Similarly with the word kitab. Kitabun means book. Its plural is kutubun. Look at this, kutubun. It's broken up. Why? Because first of all, see how this kaf here has, question, let's see. Plural can also be broken dual. No. Plural can be broken, but dual cannot be broken. This is what I meant by here. Dual cannot be broken. Dual is just dual. Broken only applies to plural. Okay? So for example, the word kitab here, is singular and the word kutub is plural. So why is this broken? Because see this kaf here, it has a kasra. This kaf in the plural has a dhamma. That's the first break. The second break is, see this fatha, see this alif here? There's no alif in the plural. The alif goes away. There's two breaks in the word. Therefore, it's broken plural. It's kutubun. Okay. But notice that for dual, you have these kitabaini or kitabani. See? Wait, I missed. Sorry, messed up here. Kitabani or kitabaini, because this is kitab plus ani equals kitabani for dual, and then of course the other one, which is kitabaini, which is kitab plus ani. Okay, but again, dual, there's no breaking. For plural, there is. You take it and you break it open, the kutub. Okay. Last example, and this is actually the end of it now. Rasul. It's probably a common word you probably know. Rasul means messenger. The plural is rusul. So why? Because you're breaking it in two places. Number one, this ra has a fatha, but the plural, the ra has a dhamma. So we change that thing. Secondly, this singular has a waw in it. There's a waw, right? Where's the waw in the plural? There's no waw. The waw was taken out. There's two breaks. As long as it has one break, that's all that's needed for it to be broken plural, but it can have more than one break. That's fine. But as long as it has one break in the essence of the word, it's going to be broken plural. So this becomes this, which is broken plural. Rasulun, rusulun. We're not saying rasulun or rasulin, which would be for masculine plural. We're not saying rasulatun or rasulatin, which would be for feminine plural. We're just saying rasul, rusul. Okay. That's why sound masculine plural is called sound. It's called salim, and that's why sound feminine plural is called sound feminine. It's salim, it's sound, because the integrity of the word is not being broken up. When you say muslimuna, it's still muslim plus una. It's not broken up. It's not and muslim plus ina or muslim plus atun, muslim plus atin, muslimatun, muslimatin. It's not being broken up. It's still the original integrity of the word. Here, however, it is being broken up. But remember, for dual, there's no breaking up. It's rasulani or rasulani. So it's basically rasul plus ani, which is rasulani, and then rasul plus aini, which is rasul aini. So for here, this is two messengers, rasulani two, and then rasulaini two. Okay, this is dual, and then the broken plural is a broken plural. Okay, so that's the entire concept. Do you have any questions? Yes. Okay, excellent. I'm glad to hear. So I take it that means you don't have any questions. Okay, cool. Excellent. Okay, well, if you would you recommend? What do you mean? What would you recommend? Recommend about like learning this further, you mean? Oh, you mean for the conjugations? Oh, the chart. Okay, so for all of this stuff, in other words. So for the conjugations, it's just a lot, and I mean a lot of exposure and a lot of practice with it, like going through lots of verbs. Which, by the way, if you continue on with Fawaki, I can guarantee you'll get a lot of practice with it, because the more texts you read, the more stuff you read, the more you get practice with it. Now, as far as the dual and the plural, I think that the best way to do it is to just take whatever ism you can find, whether it's in the Quran or other things, or the homework that Fawaki Institute gives you, your teachers give you. Just take those words and just practice with adding words to them. مثلا رسولاني رسولين يعني كتاباني كتابين قلماني قلمين, specifically with the dual, just practice it. Now, as far as the broken plural, that's different. The only way to memorize broken plural is when you see it, you ask your teacher, and they tell you that this is a broken plural. So there's not really any way to know it except to find a knowledgeable, competent teacher who knows their broken plurals. The last slide that you showed has a very good chart. Could you share that? Last slide that I showed. What was the last slide I showed? Oh, you mean this? Is this what you mean? Okay. Yeah, I can share with you. So what I'll do is this. What I'm going to do is, yeah, what I'll do, okay. So how would I share it with you? Also the notes. Yeah, the notes I'll share with you. So I'll post in the level 1A Google chats these notes. It's just a link. You should be able to get access to it. Excuse me. So as far as the recordings, yeah, I'll share it with you. So tell you what I'll do right now in the chat. I will share it with you right now as well. Can I do a screenshot? Yeah, but I don't know how to share. I think that here, let me show you the easiest way to do it, okay? Okay, let me just stop sharing real quick. It'll be a little easier. This is, okay, so this is the link, okay? If you go to this link, at the middle of the page, they have the videos, okay? The first, what you're looking for is specifically in the second link. It says morphology past tense part 3. Go to that, and at the very end of the video, this thing is there, okay? This video is there. So if you want, I know your name, so I can send you this on WhatsApp as well directly if you want. But basically, it's just this link. Sure, I can do that. I'll send it to you directly on WhatsApp. I'd rather not send it to everyone in the group chat because they don't necessarily need it, but I can send it to you directly on basically I'll just be sending you this link, because I don't have a way to show you just that chart, but I can send you the video of it. What I'll do is I can send you the video of it, and what you need to do is just go to the end of the video. That chart will be at the end of the video. And also, this link will show you, if you go through the videos in this link, which I can also share with you, like you'll have to get like go through it. You know, you can like speed through it. It'll show you the other, there's other charts inside these videos as well that you can see as well. So sound good? Okay, sounds good. Okay, cool. So I'll sometime tonight you'll get a message from me, like a direct message. So it'll, because I have your number, and it'll so basically, just so that I can remember, what you want is the link for the videos and the direct videos that show these charts. Is that correct? Okay. Did you want anything else? Oh, and the Google Notes. I'll make sure to get, I'll send that to everyone. But is there anything else besides those two things? Okay, excellent. Sounds good. Okay, well, I'm glad that it was helpful today. I think this would be a good point to stop. But yes, I will share the Google Docs via the group chats, and I can send it to you privately too. That's no big deal as well. And then specifically directly to you, I'll send you the link to this website in general, which you should have access to. But in any case, I can send it to you as well as the videos directly, and you can find the charts at the end of the videos as well as other charts in the, you know, all throughout the videos. So sound good? Okay. Okay, so you are yeah, you're welcome. Absolutely. That's why I'm here. I'm happy to help. You're welcome to leave at any point. I'm gonna have to stop so that I can stop the recording, and then I can upload that into the main Fawaki system. So yeah, and if you have any questions, you are always welcome to message me directly, by the way. Once I send you the direct messages, that you'll have my WhatsApp number. Then I have students all the time, you know, getting to me, so you can always ask me questions at that point. So, okay, sounds good. Take care. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.